And I'm moderating this meeting because Ellen Faulkner, who's your regular moderator, is running for Selectmen, so we thought it would be inappropriate for her to moderate this meeting. This meeting is a chance to meet, greet, ask questions, and get to know the candidates for Kingston, New Hampshire. This meeting is not about insults, name-calling, or negative comments about others in office or people that work for the town. This should be a positive meeting, and it should be about the future of Kingston. That being said, the Selectmen candidates are the only people that are sitting at this front desk, and that's because they are opposed for the two positions. There are 4 of them running for 2 slots. That's why they're up at the table. Other candidates that might be out in the crowd, they are unopposed, so they've got a pretty good chance of getting elected. But we will have them given a chance to speak. For the meeting, we are going to have a 2-minute opening statement for the candidates. There'll be question and answers, and thank you. There'll be a question and answer period, and the candidates will have 2 minutes to answer the questions. And I understand that there's somebody up front very politely with a sign that'll warn you when there's 30 minutes to go on your 2 minutes.
30 seconds.
I'm sorry, 30 seconds. 30 seconds to go on your 2-minute answer. And there's also a stop sign on the other side. We'll also have closing statements, and you'll be given 1 minute to give your closing statement. Are there any questions about what I just said? Any problems or questions? There being none, why don't we start with the unopposed candidates that might be in the crowd? Would you like to stand up and say something, give your name? Anyone here unopposed who wishes to speak? You go to the mic over there.
I can't have that chair.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I can't.
Yeah, give your name and the office you're running for.
Check 1, 2. All right, my name is Rick Edelman, Kingston, New Hampshire. Just have a prepared statement. For those of you who may not know me, my name is Rick Edelman. My family and I moved to Kingston in 2014. My wife, Laura, and I have 2 sons in the school system, Gabriel, age 15, and Caleb, age 11. I'm running for school board. I've been employed with UniFirst Corporation for the past 25 years, and my current role is Vice President of National Accounts. The first 10 years of my tenure with UniFirst was spent in the general manager capacity in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Maryland, and Washington, D.C. In this role, I was directly responsible for customer growth and retention, facility maintenance, equipment and environmental regulation compliance, fleet vehicle maintenance, and employee development and retention. I try to stay as active as possible in the community in which we live. I've served on the Kingston Recreation Committee, the Kingston Budget Committee for 4 years. I've had the pleasure of coaching soccer. I was the assistant Cub Master and Cub Master of Cub Pack 90 for a 5-year period. And we recently celebrated crossing over my last group of Cub Scouts to the scouting program in my last role of den leader of Cub Pack 91 of Newton, New Hampshire. I also served on the Sanborn Regional School Board, Sanborn Regional School District Budget Committee before serving on the school board. My passion for continued improvement in our district and fiscal responsibility is why I'm looking to serve in this capacity. Tenured staff and teachers are fundamental to achieving academic success. I believe my professional experience will assist our school district with the need to retain our teachers with focus on continuous improvement of culture and scholastic excellence. My fiscally conservative approach to expenditures will help ensure that funds are spent efficiently while meeting the educational needs of our children and the facilities in which they learn. I will continue to work collaboratively in a critical thought process situation, seeking input from all members of a team to reach an equitable solution. In my next term, I will focus on transparency and community engagement to include the ability to speak more frequently at school board sessions and regular reporting on district goals and employee turnover, and what we as a community can do to improve the district. There is a lot of work to be done with Fremont leaving the district. Financial reductions will have to be made starting with the 26-27 school year when Fremont freshmen no longer attend Sanborn. As a board and a community, we'll have to collaborate to make those necessary reductions to offset the revenue and loss of student headcount. As a taxpayer, homeowner, parent, and member of our community, I will work hard to ensure that the school board continues to be fiscally responsible and operates with our students and staff as the focus of every decision. And I don't think I'm answering any questions, but I'd be happy to talk to anybody tonight while I'm here. Thanks.
Are there any other candidates unopposed out there that wish to speak?
Yep, I'm over here.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Trish Tidd. I am running for the Budget Committee for the 4-year term. I have served on the Budget Committee for the past 4 years. So I would like to continue that. I think we've done a great job on the Budget Committee trying to balance the needs of the town with the financial burden that is on the taxpayers. A little bit about my background. I've lived in Kingston all my life, went through Sanborn schools, went to St. Anselm College and then New England College of Optometry, and currently I teach at Manchester Community College as well as running my own small business. So I appreciate your faith in me and giving me your vote. And if you have any questions, just grab me and I'll answer. Thanks.
Are there any other candidates out there? Okay, I've been given a sheet from Christopher Patnod from Kingston, and he's running for the planning board, and he would like me to read his message because he could not be here tonight. Christopher says, I'm running for the open seat on the planning board and I'm asking for your vote for a number of reasons. I feel my professional skills and interest make me a well-qualified candidate to serve this community. Having moved to Kingston 3 years ago, my wife Caitlin and I have begun laying down roots for our family. We love raising our children in this town and all that it has to offer. Now that we have lived here for a few years, I'm interested in becoming a more active member of the community and feel this would be a great place to start. I started my professional career working in the public school system, serving an educationally diverse population of youth. After 20 years of working with children and families, I switched gears, have been working in the financial sector. I currently work as a financial advisor with my office located down the street in Raymond. My multifaceted background, coupled with my own desire to give back to this community, I believe makes me a great candidate for this board. Thank you in advance for your time and consideration. I look forward to serving this community and representing the interests of the residents of Kingston. Christopher Patnod. Is there anybody else? Thank you. Okay, now I guess we'll get to the question and answer period for the Board of Selectmen. Oh, I'm sorry. Good idea. Why don't we have opening statements from the Board of Selectmen? Why don't we stand with Robert Tosolo? You give a 2-minute opening statement, and then we'll go to Ellen, and then Peter, and then Robert.
Good evening, and thank you for coming. I see a lot of faces in the crowd that I know really care about Kingston. It's one of the reasons I'm actually sitting at this table, because I want to be one of you. I want to thank Barry for, again, moderating, and my fellow candidates for putting themselves out there this evening. I know it's a lot, and I really appreciate people caring as they do. My name is Robert Trisolo. I live at 140 Main Street here in Kingston. I'm married to Brooke, and we are the parents of 7 children. She recently just started teaching again back at the Bakey after our youngest got into school, and we're really looking forward to being forever members of this community. I'm a real estate title examiner and settlement agent. I've been doing this for 40 years. It's given me a great perspective because I've been in every town in New Hampshire and every town in Massachusetts, which has given me a chance to see demographics and things that work and things that do not work. I'm running for select board in Kingston to protect our Kingston and look out for things that I see coming down the road. I have a very broad perspective of what's coming to Kingston, and that is growth. Growth is coming whether we want it or not. And I've always had a key component of that growth of, if it's coming, we just need to manage it correctly, because it is coming. I lived in Epping, and I do not want that here. I lived in Amesbury and watched a small town get destroyed and taken over by the state. I don't want that here either. I see what's coming over the border more and more, and these towns, the goal is for the State House to run our town. I do not want that here. I believe informing you may help prevent that. One of the prime examples of that, as I see right now, is YIMBY. And if you don't know what that is, it's state, federal push to take over local control of our government. I feel a board seat on the select board can help us stop.
Okay, Ellen?
Good evening, everyone. Excuse me. He's gonna yell at me. Yeah, I got it. Try this again. Good evening, everyone. I'm Ellen Faulkner, and I'm here tonight because I'm running for selectman, and I would like your vote. As an introduction, I've lived in Kingston with my family for over 35 years. I started volunteering after I went to my first town meeting and noticed a vacancy in the budget committee. And I thought, what a shame that no one had volunteered. And then a little nagging little voice in my head said, I noticed you haven't volunteered. So I did, and that was in 1992. I was appointed by Ms. Alessio. Since that time, I have served for many years on the Planning Board, Heritage Commission, Library Board of Trustees, Board of Selectmen. I was on the Budget Committee for 8 years, 5 years as chairman. I worked for the town's Human Services Department from 2004 to 2022. And as director, I ran the town's holiday giving tree and food basket programs. I'm currently your town moderator. I believe resident participation in local government is essential to our community, and it is the selectmen's responsibility to encourage that participation. For example, if elected, I would like to work with my fellow selectmen to implement a program that would allow residents to utilize a type of moderated message board using existing employees to allow comments and questions during a board meeting, which could then be read during public comment. Obviously, the details and legality would need to be firmed up to comply with the right to know law, but it could be a way to hear from residents who might not otherwise be able to attend a Monday night meeting. The limited time in which residents can interact with the board, I believe, disenfranchises many voters. We have technologies that can be used to encourage participation, and we should utilize them. Other proposals include getting the meetings back in the cable channel, as well as interacting with other groups in town to encourage additional access, transparency, and participation in local government. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Peter Bakey. It feels like I just sat here a short time ago, as I did only a year ago. And when I sat here, I was told that a lot of time is required to be on the Board of Selectmen. And they were not kidding. I vowed that I would only run again if I had full support of the town department heads and that I had proven myself in this town of what I've done over the last year. I have been supported fully by Chief Johnson, Chief Pellerin, Road Agent Tom Rowan, Finance Director Paul Mahoney, and Pedro Avila, which is our building department, and Tammy Bakey is the town clerk. And she does remind me still that I am not her boss. 48 years, born and raised here. Family has been in town since 1875. Was a member of the Kingston Fire Department for a short time, 1985 to 1987. I was on the planning board for 8 years. Select board member for the last year. Still working with SELT in the town on private landowners donating both time and money for the use of our local trail systems. Law enforcement for 20 years. Successful business owner for 20 years. And again, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that everything you want to hear as far as I'm going to promise to drop your taxes. We are working on that very adamantly. We'll be looking more at the solid waste and the recycling committee as far as cost and benefits to this town, as our contract on waste management will be ending on December 2027. We'll have to have a new contract in place by 2028. I will tell you that I will continue to work my hardest for the people of the town of Kingston. I have nothing to gain personally if I am elected, but I will make the best decisions based on what is in the best interest of the town and the people that live here. Thank you.
Robert Pellegrino. Most people know I've run quite a few times, so they pretty much know who I am and what I stand for. First off, I'd never get to thank the 300 people that vote for me when I run, so thank you very much. As for the 500 people that keep voting their friends in every year, people that have been in power for decades, some of them, I want you to understand that the policies recommended by the planning board and the select board are crippling the rest of the 7,500 people that live here too. We're victims of their leadership. While you vote your friends in, our taxes keep going up every year. Your friends on the select board don't feel the pain like the rest of us. And everything I'm about to tell you are facts. Let's start with Miss Alessio. In my project, she forced me to give her a 60-foot swath of land through our cul-de-sac, claiming she would continue my road through 1,000 feet of swamp, only to sell these 18 acres of swamp to the town for $300,000. That will pay her taxes for 20 years. The vice chair, Mr. Koppelman, just received 75% off a portion of his property taxes. That was voted on by all the present selectmen earlier last year. He also pays very little, if any, property taxes because his land is, his 2 acres are a tree farm. So their policies you keep voting on, raising our taxes, doesn't affect them. This is why I pulled the selectmen's tax cards. We had another selectman take the road agent's job after passing away, and he gave himself, with the help of the other selectmen, of course, gave himself a $117,000 salary and a $100,000 new truck. Rich was highly qualified for that job and paid $87,000 a year. The selectman had no experience, and he was making $125,000 with a 7% raise last year. This is completely inappropriate for this town. And I'm done. Thank you.
And now we'll proceed to question and answers. And I have to admit, I will read these questions as best I can. Some of the writing I can't make out, but if I'm wrong and you wish to change my statement, please tell me. To the select board, the first question, and you have 2 minutes each to answer the question, and I'll start with you, Robert. The question is, how many meetings of any town boards have you attended or participated in during the last 6 months?
Currently, I am a member of the planning board, so I've been to quite a few of planning board meetings for the last year and a half.
Can anybody hear him? Yes. You can? Okay.
I have not been to a select board meeting at all, or a zoning board meeting, but the planning board meetings I have been to.
Helen?
I've been to the budget committee decision days that they've been having, so I could learn what was coming forward with the budget and the warrants. I went to decision day. I went to the selectmen's meeting every week since I signed up. So I've been, however many of those there have been, I've been to. If you count elections in the last few months, I've been at all of those as moderator. So I've watched them on TV, some of the meetings, the planning board meetings. That's about it.
Okay. Peter?
I apologize, I probably don't have the time down, but I have been obviously involved with the selectmen's meetings, I've been to planning board meetings, and I have also been on the budget committee meetings that I've attended on a few occasions.
Robert?
This is a great question, because in 2017, when I was on the planning board, I fought, well, for a good 6-7 months with Peter Broderick to televise our meetings. And it took him 8 months to do it. He actually told me, I asked him why every week that we had a meeting, why we're not televised. He said the high school kid was undependable. So I said, do you pay him? He said, $15 an hour. I said, I'll call you back in 15 minutes. Called them back in 10, I had 4 people that were interested in that job. They interviewed one guy, and they hired Alan's son. So that's how we got back on TV. When the first day we were televised, the chairman of our planning board told the public that because of our meeting, because of the, we haven't been on TV because of our equipment was broken. That was a lie. Okay? And that's like, that chairman was Mr. Koppelman. There was nothing wrong with our equipment. Matter of fact, the cable company pays us $63,000 a year to keep that cable channel going. So there was nothing wrong with it. And that's the kind of leadership we don't want in this town anymore. They've been in power for decades, and enough is enough. Thank you very much. Let me finish. I do watch the meetings, to finish that, because I watch them from at home. Because we're televised, I get to watch that.
Okay. Second question. Please state your position on nullifying the long-standing practice and voter-supported position of any full-time position requiring a warrant article for approval. Yes, Ellen.
I'm not in favor of putting any full-time position in the budget without it going to warrant article first, without a warrant article asking the townspeople if they still want to continue that practice. It was done several years ago, the town's used to it, and I think without a warrant article that just simply says, do you want to continue the practice of requiring the town to put full-time and permanent positions in the warrant? Ask the question, if the town still wants us to do it, then that answered that question. It's advisory. If the town says we don't need it, then we've gotten that answer too, but I'm not in favor of just going ahead and doing it without asking the townspeople first.
Peter?
Excuse me, I've had mixed reviews on this issue. We've talked about this quite often. In the town of Kingston, the town people have elected us as a board of selectmen to run this town as a business. I've had a business for quite a few years, and unfortunately there's some situations that we need employees to run this town more efficiently. When things go to budget or to town vote, sometimes if it's not demonstrated or explained properly that they understand how this town runs and the needed position, people always think about cutting the dollar. But unfortunately, sometimes you need to spend money to make money. And unfortunately, the town can't run sometimes efficiently with all these positions. So again, we're still working on that issue. So that's why you see warrant articles this year for positions. So as far as the topic is, yes, it was, I think it was 1995 that was voted on in this town to have that position go before the voters. But I think it's a checks and balances to run the town efficiently where it need to be. So that's where I stand.
Robert?
You elect your selectmen to make choices like this. We should not be asking the public if we should be hiring anybody. We should probably try not giving out $100-something thousand salaries to people with a town with 8,000 people in it. The maximum people should be making is $80,000 a year. That's it. That's how I feel. I think we're overpaying people, and we're getting involved with, this town ran just fine 10 years ago. There was nothing wrong with the way it ran, and we weren't paying the bills that we are today. So I'd have to look over the books and find out who's getting paid what, and if we do need to hire people, why we need to hire them, and if it's possible that we can afford them. And if we can't afford them, we have to find a place or a spot so that we can pay these people. So there are other ways to generate revenue in this town. I've given plenty of ideas over the past years, talking about a few years ago putting a charging station on 125 so people who are skiing can charge their car on 125, going up north. I mean, I've talked about that 3 years ago. I've had many, many ideas to generate revenue in this town. Instead of putting storage units, there's no tax dollars in that. We have 125, which is a pristine piece of property, and we squander it putting storage units in. It's ridiculous. We put businesses in that will generate tax dollars. We start building houses in town, like I said before, 6 years ago. Build houses in town, we can drop our tax rate down. Thank you.
Next question. Please describe... Oh, I'm sorry.
I think the last deliberative session that we attended was a pretty good example of the town voice on warrant articles on hiring people. I think what I got from it was that they want it. They want to be able to voice their opinion. In the last couple of years, I've seen both pros and cons of that. Last year, there was a very good position that wasn't filled because of that. And again, it's back on the warrant article this year. I think advocacy may help in that perspective of getting those people hired to do the jobs. Of course, I am fearful that without getting messages out there, we may lose some good people that are offered jobs here in the town. Again, in my work with the planning board for the last year and a half, I got to meet to a lot of people in this town, and we have good people. I would hate to think that we're gonna lose one of those because it was a warrant article, but my feeling on that is I think the town should decide. I think our warrant articles are a good way to go about that. I think that if we want someone hired, maybe we should be able to speak up for that. Maybe to Ellen's point of being able to advocate a little on a town board, or being able to advocate maybe Facebook or something like that. So I'm in favor of it.
Okay. Next question. Please describe your position on recusals, especially as it relates to family members who are employees. Peter?
Well, apparently I do have a family member that is an employee, and I have no problem of recusing myself. I think it's very important to recuse yourself on any topic that's got to do with a family member or anything that's directly related to you. Not a problem.
Robert?
Any good leader would recuse himself.
Robert?
When you have finances involved and things like that, yes. Recusal of a family member, absolutely.
Ellen?
I don't know of any opposition to this, because it sounds like everybody agrees that if you're doing something and voting on something that has to do with the family member, you must recuse yourself. And I would take that position myself.
Next question. As a fiduciary for the town, how often do you feel the budget should be reviewed? Robert?
It's a great question. How about all year round? That's our job. If you're going to be a selectman, you're going to run into problems that are going to change, like the stairs that nobody can fix. I had a way to fix the stairs too. Last year I came up with a way to bring clean water to poison wells in the center of town, and nobody cares. So the town, its budget has to be 100% looked at every day, because we don't know what's going to come up. We have plowing to do, we have other maintenance to do, we have something happen that's tragic that we have to pay for, like water to people who have poison wells. That needs to be justified and rectified, that whole issue right there. Those people have gone 7 years with poison water that causes cancer, and nobody's lifted a finger for them. Last year I went door to door and tried to help these people. Nobody voted, so we're stuck with poison wells. I even had a solution paid for these people. So the budget needs to be all the time, not once a year, not every 6 months. It's a continuous job. When you run a business, this town should be run like a business, just like this country. It's a business. It's not our personal piggy bank, and that's how it should be run.
Robert?
Over the last year, watching that budget committee work with our budget, it seems to be overseen quite a bit. Our role as a select board, as Robert mentioned down the end, that there are things that are going to pop up and we're going to have to deal with those. And that's different than overseeing it every day. The Budget Committee does a really good job on that, and our job is to make sure that money's spent well and to deal with any problems that pop up in the middle of it. I think the budget was set, voted on, and approved, and again, our job is just to manage it once we get it.
Ellen?
I would think that when the selectmen have paperwork to sign, that they probably get the information they need from Paula, who does a wonderful job, and that it would be there for the selectmen to review as they're signing any documentation that has anything to do with an expenditure. So I think that it would almost come up, at least on a minor basis, at any meeting that they have. And then certainly, you know, monthly, you might want to check in to make sure how everything's going, but you certainly don't have to micromanage the department heads with their invoices and everything. So I don't think it has to be every day, but you want to keep an eye on it monthly and make sure that you're going in the direction you want to go in.
Peter?
Probably to echo the words of Rob and Ellen, I think we have some tremendous department heads in this town. They work very diligently at their budgets. I think they all cut costs. Everything goes up in price, cost of living, so on and so forth. Budget Committee works diligently all year long. We put as a governing body of this town, we put our trust into those departments to work correctly. Yes, we oversee them. If they have questions, they do ask us. Paula does keep an eye on the budgets. If there's issues, she brings it to our attention as the board that we deal with, actually on a monthly basis. I'm definitely not one for micromanaging. We put these people in the position to run these departments, and I think they do a fabulous job. So yes, we do need to keep an eye on it. Monthly would be a good idea, definitely not a day-to-day. We have a lot of other things going on in town than to watch over our department heads that do a great job.
Next question. Please state your position on cellular phone use during meetings, especially resident appointments. Robert?
Cellular phone,
Your position on cellular phone use during meetings.
there should be none.
Ellen?
I agree. I think having a phone out is a distraction, and I don't think it's needed. Obviously, there'll be instances where someone could be in a hospital and you need to see that information, but other than that, I don't think it's at all beneficial.
Peter?
Cellular phone use, I think, is quite a wide, broad terminology. As far as somebody talking on a personal basis and texting back and forth, I think it's totally inappropriate. But a lot of times during our meetings, we have to either refer to RSA or different codes and look up information from past meetings. We all have cell phones, have email addresses on our phones, and sometimes we need to look at our past meetings, and sometimes the only thing we have is our phones to look at those. So I guess it depends when you say cellular phones. Is it a personal level or a professional level? I can tell you for myself, I actually reflect on emails and minutes of previous meetings to obtain information for the meeting I'm involved with. So I guess it really depends on what you're talking about cellular phones. Personal, absolutely not. Research, I think it's essential.
Okay. Robert?
I feel that's a part of freedom of speech. Someone wants to sit in the audience and they want to record us, then they should be able to. If they're talking and they're obnoxious and they're talking over us, I mean, that's like common sense. This isn't high school. People know better. This is a professional environment, and when you're here, you act professionally, and that's just how it is. But if people want to use their phone and they feel that they want to record a meeting, it's entirely up to them.
Next question. What types of new businesses would you like to see come to our town to encourage economic development and expand our tax base? Ellen?
I know this is not the kind of thing everybody's looking for, but I'd love to have a bakery, a really good bakery come to town. That's always been something I'd like to see. I know that people want to see larger businesses to come for better taxes, which is important. It's vital to how the town's going. I don't have specific, again, other than the bakery. Movie theater, love to have a movie theater, but those are just because those are my personal things. So I don't have any particular business in mind. Again, a lot of it has to go with what's zoning. We talked once before about down at the southern end of town. I had gone to a meeting where there had been a lot of interest in trying to develop Kingston and the industrial zone in town to have larger type of entertainment kind of businesses that would generate a lot of taxes and also generate some jobs and things. That seemed to be a really nice idea at the time. That was a economic growth committee that we had gone to. So I myself would like to see that kind of thing.
Peter?
Very touchy subject. We have 125 that runs through the center of town, and we do have available properties. We do debate with the state of New Hampshire on curb cuts on 125. That's what I believe is where business does belong. One thing that we need to tackle, I think, in the town of Kingston, this has been going on for years, is, and I hate to use the terminology, but you could call it workforce or affordable housing. I think that the town of Kingston, as any other town in the state of New Hampshire, is required to have some of this. And we have been fighting this, I believe, in this town for a long period of time for affordable housing or workforce housing, and pushing it off on certain properties that are available. And I think it's going to come to a point that we're going to be told by the state of New Hampshire that we have to implement this housing in this town. So we really need to look at that. As far as businesses, we could all talk about movie theaters, gas stations, or a hardware store, or whatever you dream to make, but it comes down to available land, real estate, who's going to invest in the properties. But commercial property is definitely an income to this town, which I believe does belong on 125. But we definitely have to explore the housing situation in this town before we're told what we're going to do. So that's my thought on housing. Thanks.
Robert?
Well, this is right up my alley. I've been giving the town suggestions for years and years and years, probably since 2012, on how to generate new revenues, lower taxes in town, bring new businesses in. And the planning board, when I had my subdivision, trying to get that through, it took 4 years for a 6-lot subdivision, because they're not too keen on building in progress here in town, and that's the reason why we're in the shape we're at. Now, maybe things have changed the past couple of years. You got a new planning board, but my experience that I was on when I was on that planning board, it was delay, 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 everybody. There was no progress happening. It took so long to get everything done that it put a bad taste in everybody's mouth. So new businesses in this town, oh my goodness, you can do so much. I live on Powell Pond. For another idea, you can excavate that swamp, that little area right in front of my house, and there's probably $1 million worth of loom in there that you could generate out of that and sell it. You could dig that out. Right now, I'm charged for waterfront property, and it's a swamp. It's a foot deep. You can't even put a boat in there. So there are a lot of ideas that can be used. You don't have the proper leadership in town. This is what I've been saying for years and years and years. Your leadership is poor, and that's why we're in the situation we're in. You can't keep electing your friends. You have to elect people who know what they're doing. The people that have been in this town, running this town, have been doing it for decades, and you expect a different outcome? It's not going to happen.
One of the biggest things I'd like to see growth in businesses is farming. I think it will present two very good possibilities. One, farming is coming back. You see it growing everywhere. To a point of workforce housing, I see that come across a lot, and I've seen that renamed 9 different times. I have a different feeling of what it is workforce housing is meant to be and what it should be. I think farming, there are mechanisms there where you can actually create real workforce housing to support farms. I think Kingston is a great place for recreational businesses as well. And one of the big things I've seen is malls killed town businesses. The internet has now killed malls. It has opened the door for small businesses in local towns, and I'd like to see those come back. Whether it's hardware, whether it's clothing, whether it's butchery, I think that now the internet has destroyed the malls. It has opened up the door for small businesses to come back to local communities, and I'd like to see that push. Now, as far as I heard mention the planning board, I've been on the planning board for a year and a half, and I have not seen delay. I've seen helpful growth and helpful from every department in this town and everybody on that planning board, helping these businesses when they come to town to walk them through the process and make it easier. And that's, again, another one of the reasons I'm here, because growth is coming, and we need to manage it. Thank you.
It is. I got the green light, so I guess I'm all set. I'll start again. Community Power Coalition, a New Hampshire nonprofit, has been discussed as a possible default electricity supplier for the town of Kingston. What are your thoughts on this proposal? And I think we're starting with Peter.
Another topic that the Board of Selectmen have been working on with community power. We've been short a lot of contracts that have no monetary figures on them. We have a lot of feedback from power supply companies as far as cost. There are a lot of open-end contracts that we've seen that don't tell us the full detail. My personal belief is everybody in this town, as we speak, can shop for their own power service online. You can make that decision yourself. I personally, as far as where we're going right now with the idea and the thought of the power company that's presenting this to us, I think there's not enough information that's been presented to us to make that decision. And I do think the people in town should have an opinion on that decision, and us not tell them that they are going to have that supplier and then have to opt out, may you say, of the contract. So again, we're in negotiations right now, but I don't think we have all the information to make a solid decision. But the way I look at it right now is there's a lot of questions that still need to be answered on this certain supply that we're talking about.
Robert?
I've actually watched this, the meetings on TV, and personally I think it's a really stupid idea. The town doesn't get any benefit from it. It might be $30,000 or what have you, but there's no benefit in it for the town. It's really the benefit for the power company, for the people that love solar. That's about it. So I would be totally against that unless it was unless the town had something involved in it, but it's really not for the town or the people here.
Robert?
Community Power is basically a program that was originated to stop monopolies. Unitil basically has a monopoly in the state of New Hampshire. So they now have to offer that power to be sold by third-party companies to the public. In a lot of states, and even in New Hampshire, you can opt out and join one of those third-party companies. Now, you're buying Unitil power, but you're buying it from somebody else. And that company is set up to offer it to you at 3 or 4 cents less a kilowatt until that contract expires. And when that contract expires, that kilowatt price will triple. And that's where they're catching people on which you don't pay attention. They've now just offered that to communities, so they want you to join as a community. And if a community joins one of those programs and they get caught in the rate increase, that's the whole community that's going to double per kilowatt the cost of power. Now, they tried to sell it with it's going to be cheaper. Well, cheaper energy. I have a lot of questions of what kind of cheaper energy. Is it going to be cheaper green energy? Is it going to be cheaper fossil fuel energy? If it's cheaper green energy, is it really cheaper? And those questions they leave open. But the reality to it is we're buying Unitil power from a third party. And if you want to do that on your own, I definitely think it's a good idea. You can get it 2 to 4 cents cheaper per kilowatt. but you have to watch out when that contract expires. And opting out of those contracts, I was in one, I opted out, they didn't send it along, and I was stuck in that contract for 6 months without knowing it, and I got a $900 bill. Can you imagine what would happen to the town of Kingston with that as a collective? I think it's a terrible, terrible idea.
I think it's a scam, to be honest with you.
Alan?
Thank you. I think it's worth looking into. I think there are two parts of it, and the first part looks innocuous enough. Again, I have a tendency to be a suspicious person, so I read the contract, and the initial one looks like, you know, they'll help you with these things and all that kind of stuff. I think it's worth looking into, because what we heard at deliberative session was that it might be a little bit of a reduction for residences, but it could be a significant reduction for businesses. So I'd like to look into that a little bit more, because certainly if we can help our businesses save money to stay in town, that's a positive thing. But then there's the second part that did have a lot of questions unanswered. I had a lot of concerns about the possibility that if the town wanted to back out of it, we might be on the hook for any project that might have been initiated, and we might have to pay a fee to get out because of that project, and I don't know who gets to control the expenditure and what the project may be. So I agree with Peter that there's quite a lot more to look into about it. I don't think we should dismiss anything that may be a possibility of saving money to the town, but I don't think it's anything we want to just initially jump into without getting a little bit more information.
Next question. The solar array planned for the Kingston landfill is still being assessed and may not be financially viable enough to provide us with net revenues. If the costs outweigh the benefits, should Kingston proceed? And I believe we're starting with Robert.
The costs don't outweigh the benefits, so I would say no to that project. Solar is very inefficient, and they only last, the panels last, about 10, 15 years, they say 20, but what do you do with them afterwards? So there's a problem with solar. I built a solar home in Kingston, it didn't have a frame, it was a long time ago, but I'm very familiar with solar. And around here, it's not very efficient, especially in the winter when we get 6 hours of sun.
Robert?
Unitil's putting 11,000 panels down in South Kingston. It's supposedly going to be able to power 12,000 households year-round. To be looking at something up on the landfill, I'd be interested in it, to be honest with you. Years ago, every town had their own power company, every town had their own hospital, every town had their own everything. If there's a way to get power cheaper for Kingston residents, I'd be open to that. Now, solar panels, one, offer you power, but the other big money that people don't understand with solar panels is you sell the carbon offsets from them, and that money is huge. Now, if Kingston, the town of Kingston can be part of that, I would be in support of it. But if we're just allowing it to happen, I'm not sure that I could support something like that.
Ellen?
I believe the question was, if the cost outweighed the benefits, would we still go forward with it? And why would we go forward with anything if the costs outweighed the benefits? I don't believe that that's what's being proposed with solar, but yeah, no. If the costs outweighed the benefits, I wouldn't see us going forward.
Peter?
We've addressed this issue with the landfill solar panels. Rob has talked about the 11,000 panels that went off on Mill Road. That was funded and is partly under agreement with the Unitil. They've expressed that Kingston will not see any immediate benefit to that solar field. That's power sold into the grid that will eventually possibly drop our price of electricity. That's not for Kingston residents. That's why they put it by those two substations that tie back into it. As far as the dump or the landfill in town of Kingston, one thing that makes me very cautious is we own that property. They promised us, I believe it was a $35,000 yearly fee to lease that from the town of Kingston. It would be privately funded. Unitil wants nothing to do with that project at this time. Private donors and private funding people will be involved with that. There's a large amount of money that would cost for infrastructure to bring power from that site. And my question was, when that fails, because you're building it on a landfill, and the structures will collapse, and the investors decide they're gonna go bankrupt, and they walk away, Kingston will be stuck with that project. That is a financial liability to this town, and I am 100% against that project, to build a solar field on a landfill that we own. Thank you.
Next question. Regarding our recycling center, should we continue operation of that facility if it is not self-funding? If it is continued, where in Kingston might we relocate it to allow its planned expansion? And I think we're starting with you.
Recycling is a very tough issue. It's, again, coming up for, I believe Peter mentioned, 2027 is a contract for us. Recycling in your trash can out front doesn't go to recycling, and recycling in your trash can out front goes to the incinerator. I don't understand why we're paying more for it. Moving forward, is there a path to make money in recycling and self-funding? I don't think at this moment in time, but is it worth funding and finding a location in Kingston for it for the future? I think there might be. I think there absolutely might be. The fairgrounds would be a good place to expand, I believe. It would have to be someplace where traffic can get in and out, because you find places that are problematic. But cardboard, you can make money off. Glass, you can make money off. Aluminum, you can make money off. Plastics, unfortunately, you can't. And, well, maybe you cut some stuff you can't and keep the stuff you can. So I think definitely moving forward, we should fund it. I think we should find a place for it, and we should try it, because it's going to end with the trash collection. I mean, we're paying to send stuff to the landfill with our trash, and that makes no sense to me.
Ellen?
Based on the information I've been hearing about what's happening with the contract, we're going to have to provide some avenue in which people can recycle. It's also good education for our children to see us doing it, so we don't want to get rid of it completely. It would be great if it could become self-funding, but I think I was there last weekend. There were a lot more people going there than I had anticipated. But I also think there's a lot of people in town who don't know that it's available for something for you to do. So I have to say I was impressed with the amount of people who were there recycling, and that if the more people know about it, the more it grows, and the more people find out this is what's going to be available for them, I think it can become self-funding. As to where it would go, I don't know enough about the town. I don't know if we have a place at the landfill if we're not going to use it for solar. I don't know if it's viable down at the fairgrounds due to the aquifer. I don't know enough about the products that they're taking in. So I'd have to look at that to see what impact could be environmental before we decided at what location it could expand to.
Peter?
I'm actually hoping that the recycling center will succeed. Hoping. But they're not. They haven't been. It's a cost to the town at this time, and I understand it's going to be a cost. It takes money to make money. As far as the location, we entered into another lease agreement with the old state garage across from the boat landing. I personally don't believe that is a place to have the recycling facility. It's not big enough. I question what the requirements of the DES has for a recycling facility. Keep in mind, it's almost like the landfill. We don't own that property. So I'm a little cautious of investing money into buildings and compactors and pavement maybe that required, and fencing to keep people out, and dumping products on property that we do not own. So that leads me back to the fairgrounds in Kingston, which we do own, And if we were gonna invest any money, I believe we either have to go full into this recycling and waste for the town of Kingston for the future, or stop kind of dabbling around with it, because what we're doing right now, I just don't see the money making us back what it's costing us at this time. I'm hoping it succeeds, but time will tell.
Robert?
Well, I'm going to look everybody in the eye right now and tell them that recycling goes right into the trash, okay? So when they recycle everything, it just goes right to the trash. So that's just a waste of money. I feel that this town, for the amount of money in taxes that we pay, you better damn well pick up our trash. I don't want to be going and recycling. And the leadership in this town, if you can't figure out how to at least pick up our trash, I know you can't figure out how to fix the stairs, but you got to be able to figure out how to pick up our trash.
Next question. Given our PFA's challenges, there has been discussion of investing in a municipal water system. What are your thoughts? Ellen? I'm sure you have some.
I have some, thank you. Regardless of the PFOAs or not, the town has talked about having, being its own water company for a long time. We established a water district, we established a way to do it. There's been discussion as to whether or not it might even be feasible to sell water to other towns as they need it. I think the PFOAs currently are being taken care of. I read the information by the water systems for the individual homes, but a water district is something the town should probably, you know, think about, because there have been times where other towns needed water, and if we had some of the infrastructure in place, we might have been able to have sold some of it and actually brought some revenue into the town.
Peter?
Somewhat echo Ellen. This PFOA has been it started off as a surface water, a shallow well problem here in the center of town, and there's a lot of finger pointing where it's actually coming from. That's another story. But Kingston is actually located on probably one of the largest aquifers in the state of New Hampshire, and we really concentrate on protecting our aquifer, but they're not doing anything with it. So there are opportunities, as Ellen said, that we could actually sell water from this town. I know Plasto's without a water. The last thing I knew, Plasto was bringing in water from all the way over at Massabesic Lake to bring water into Plasto, because there's no water down there. Definitely something I think is coming down the road to Kingston, where our population is growing, and we're going to be required probably to have a municipal water service. But that's something maybe we should look at sooner than later, because the cost for this town is going to be substantial to put in a water system. It's not just as easy as throwing pipes in the ground and putting wells in. There's a lot behind a water system that research probably should be started sooner than later on that.
Robert?
Oh, yeah. Well, last year, sitting at this table, I gave everybody the solution to their water issue. It took me 5 hours to figure that all out. I called a few well companies. If you put a pump station in. Now, last year I told everybody, about selling our water. You need 2 locations. I guess it's a place on Exeter Road that has water, plenty of water. I said you could sell Kingston water and pay for this infrastructure. I told everybody that last year. I even had a person that was going to dig a trench a mile long for this town for free. I had the location, Dan Park's spot. Okay, if you put a pump station in, you don't have to put a treatment plant in for the whole town. Not everybody's going to want to pay. I have clean water. Okay, if you put a pump station in, particularly on my last lot I'm building in my subdivision, I went 160 feet down. I hit a 15-foot river underground. I have enough water to take care of the whole town. You could run a pump station from that. That's going to generate over 100 gallons a minute. That's filtered water from my place, you could filter that, you could bring that water all the way to Country Pond and take care of all those people in Country Pond. You could daisy chain it. There's so many different things you can do in town to bring clean water. You don't need to put a treatment plant in. Not everybody has, I have clean water. Why do I need to be part of a treatment plant? We don't need that. That's $1 million. It's like the high school. These are stupid ideas. Okay? They're not thought out. They're dumb. Bottom line. You can put a pump station in. It'll cost you $100,000 for the pump station, maybe $120,000. And the whole project will cost you less than $500,000, not millions of dollars. And that'll take care of 75 to 150 houses in the center of town. You can bring them all clean water.
Robert?
I live on Main Street, so my water gets tested. I'm fortunately far enough away. I do feel for the people that do have to have bottled water. I can't even imagine that. I think there are solutions to that. The one solution I don't think is a water system. With the water system comes sanitary system. With sanitary systems comes growth that I do not want in Kingston. You put those in, we become Epping the next day. It's the only thing, not having them, that protects us from becoming something like Epping. Don't get me wrong, I like Epping, but I don't like the way the growth is there. And if we put those in here, that is the growth we will have here.
Okay. Next question. Kingston Days and other town events have traditionally permitted gun raffles by local groups for fundraising. Would you support the continuation of these raffles? Peter?
Probably not the right question to ask me, but to be
I
honest with you...
planned it that way, Peter.
Excuse me?
I planned it that way.
I'm sure you did. So, gun raffles, I just don't think that's a right thing to say. It's like having a Harley-Davidson raffle. It's a freedom to bear arms. It's not like they're gonna be shooting guns off in the center of town. It's an organization, usually it's the VFW, that actually promotes these. It's a way of drawing money into their community. I don't think there's any danger to the town of Kingston by having a gun raffle, or a motorcycle raffle, or a snowmobile raffle, or anything else you want to do. I have not an issue at all with a gun raffle on the plains during Kingston Days.
Okay. Robert?
That's the Second Amendment right, I believe, bear arms. I'm a Democrat, but I'm a different Democrat. I'm honest and I love this country. And the people that don't want guns are pretty much ignorant, I'd have to say, on that matter, because that's what founded this country. So as far as having raffles, it's free, instead of restricting us as Americans, we should have more freedoms. And if this is part of being free, if you want to have a raffle, you want to sell off anything, it's America.
Robert?
I love gun raffles. I mean, I'm honestly surprised at the question, but I live in New Hampshire for a reason. One of those is the right to bear arms. The worst word you ever want to hear in your life, and not to get into the gun debate, is shelter in place, okay? That stuff is scary. Gun raffles, absolutely support them, and would encourage everybody to maybe buy a ticket. They support good causes.
Ellen?
It's not my thing, but if we're having a public event, we don't tell anyone else what they can and cannot raffle. So again, I may or may not buy a ticket, but I wouldn't tell anyone that they couldn't do it.
Next question. How would you encourage volunteers to serve on town committees and boards? And I think we're on Robert.
Well, we can't even get people to come out and vote. Getting people to serve on boards. Well, that's a good question, but I'm going to be nice. People don't want to serve on boards in this town because they don't particularly like the leadership here. That's why they don't serve on the boards. They're not interested. It puts a bad taste in people's mouth, All they do is pay higher taxes, and they're ignored. And this is what you get when you hire and you elect the same people year after year after year. You have to make a change, ladies and gentlemen. You can't expect different things with the same people in office. It's like Congress. We're all sitting here watching it, beating our heads up against the wall, watching our country fail. The townspeople see what's going on. They're not interested. They're not even interested in coming out to vote. 700 people vote every year. I've been complaining about that since 2012. It's ridiculous. The reason why people don't want to be in office is because they don't like any of the people that are in office.
Robert?
I think the biggest way to get people involved is to inform them of, and I've given this a lot of thought, of what's going to happen, not what's happening tomorrow, but what's going to happen next week. I think on every level of government, it would be better if we started informing people. I think the select board may have a good role in that moving forward. I want the people of Kingston to know what's going to happen in the State House next month. I want the people in Kingston to know what's going to happen at the select board next month. How you reach those people when they got rid of the Carriagetown News, that was unfortunate, but I think with the internet, it does reach enough people now that we can start encouraging people to see what's going on with the town, and see what's going on with the state, what's going on with the county. And hopefully, those things will trigger people to start caring a little more and getting involved. We find out more and more about the bad things we don't want happening, the compact for electricity. That brought a lot of people to the table. Brought me to the table, to be honest with you. It made me think about things, and if we can start informing people about things going on coming down the road, I think we can start getting a little more involvement in volunteering and caring and participating in town government.
Ellen?
I'd like to actually work with the library to try and get some of the community involvement. The library is a community-based organization. I think the town hall has a tendency to be a little intimidating, to invite people to try and come in and do things, whereas I know a lot of people go to the library. And I think to get people to volunteer, you have to actually invite them and make them feel wanted. I don't know that we've done a lot of that. We put out a lot of information that we're looking for people, but take some time, go to the library where people come in and actually invite people to participate, invite people to come to some of the meetings. Maybe have some of the people from the committees and things go to the library if you're having some sort of an invitational to come see what it's like. You might get more people in that kind of a setting than you would to actually come into this setting with everybody sitting behind a table and looking all official. If it was a little more, have a cup of coffee and talk to us about it, we might have a little more interaction with people and get them to maybe volunteer a little bit more.
Peter?
Volunteers is a tough word. I was on the planning board for 8 years, Board of Selectmen for a year. People that I talk with in the community, they put trust in who they vote for and who they put in these offices. I truthfully believe if they were unhappy with how this town is being run and they wanted change, they would actually show up. It's one thing to sit home in your living room and watch us on TV and hear what we're saying. It's another thing to sit in the audience and question us, talk to us, show their opinions and their ideas, and we have little of that activity. So I do believe when they vote us into office, whether it's the selectmen or the budget committee, or they hire a fire chief or the police chief, they entrust their knowledge in this town. So I do believe that there is a large amount of trust that we possibly know what we're doing. And if they didn't, I think they would be here in this audience tonight, and they would be asking direct questions because they would question our inability to handle the town and matters that we deal with on a daily basis.
Okay. Next question. All four of you have served on the planning board. Tell us about that experience. Robert?
It's been fantastic. My background is in real estate and planning, so to be able to sit on the board and see that process is absolutely wonderful. The people that we have on the board, Glenn, the engineers, the people that come in to advise us are magnificent. Robin's help on that board is, without a doubt, irreplaceable, okay? I think she's up for a warrant article this year too, by the way, and I would encourage both of you to maybe talk to people and get that moving forward. Kingston is growing, and the planning board, you see it every single day, they're coming in. And as I mentioned earlier, I've seen wonderful help from every person on that board to everybody that comes in that door. They're encouraging growth, they're encouraging people in the right direction, businesses coming in for approvals. It's just a great place to be and a wonderful place to see people interact, especially the leaders of the town.
Ellen?
I had a good time on the planning board. The people who were on the board, whether you agreed with them or not, 95% of the time were respectful to one another. They listened to each other's opinions. Not everybody agreed with everyone all the time, but they usually worked it out. But it was dealing with the people. The townspeople were all great. You know, every now and then you had one or two that got a little cranky, but on the most part, it was just dealing with the residents and dealing with other people who wanted to volunteer on the board, and I had a very good experience with that.
Peter?
I have to echo Ellen's comments. Over the 8 years I was on that board, I saw considerable changes. Different people come into the board, people that were very intelligent, researched ideas, thoughts, suggestions, and I believe I've witnessed the board becoming a more efficient board. And I always was one to say, I always said we should spend as much time working with an applicant as we do maybe looking at issues the applicant has. These people rely a lot with us. Some people spend an awful lot of money on plans, engineers, attorneys to present plans to this town. And I believe I can say that I sat through a couple nights that we were there till 1:30, almost 2 o'clock in the morning. And we changed that to a time limit, because at 1 o'clock in the morning, I don't believe you were giving the applicant the time that they deserved for the hearing. So that was one of the things we did do while I was on the board, and I'm actually quite proud of that. We did put a time cap on hearings. I did enjoy the planning board, learn an awful lot, and I gained some of the experience to help me become a selectman in this town.
Robert?
Oh, boy. Okay, well, I didn't have such a great experience on the planning board. I found it to be corrupt. I found we lied to the public a lot. The last, maybe the past few years, it's been good with the new members, but while I was on that planning board, I asked for minutes of our meeting. I was told they went by the tapes. When I went and asked for the tapes, I was told they were destroyed. Okay? Destroyed town government tapes that I wanted, because I did not agree with those minutes, because I had given a speech about those in those minutes, and none of that speech was in those minutes, and that's just one thing. And that person that destroyed the tapes was Alan Faulkner. And then she called me delusional. Okay? So my experience, I've done articles in the newspaper, Bad Apples in Kingston. You could read, if you go back, you can read it in the newspaper. The problems that I had with that planning board. I came to that planning board looking to fix what was broken, because I had been treated so horribly, and I watched 4 years all the other people that were in those meetings being treated so horribly, that I ran for planning board to try to fix that planning board. And I can tell you, when that all happened, all the planning board members, instead of doing something about it, they all turned their back on me. So my experience with that planning board was horrible. And that's why I left, because it was guilty by association. And I wasn't going to be guilty like the rest of these people.
Next question. What do you think the time commitment is for being a select board member, and do you have the time required? Ellen?
I think the time commitment to be a selectman is more than most people think. I had been one a long time ago. And it really does take a lot of time. If you're going to do it right, you have to be able to go to other meetings, you have to go to your Monday night meetings, your Monday morning meetings, and I'm retired, so yes, I have the time to do that.
Peter?
My opening statement was, I was told it was gonna take a lot of time, and they were not kidding. I'm very fortunate enough to own my own business. I am available 24/7. I'm usually within 10 or 15 minutes from this town hall any day of the week. I'm available by phone, by email, and often we have to come in and sign paperwork, maybe for a hearing. Availability on my avenue is not a question. I am available, but I couldn't even put a hourly number if you're asking that, how much time is involved with being a select person. I can just tell you it's an awful lot. It's more than just showing up on a Monday night or in the summertime every other Monday night for a meeting. So when you're into it, you're fully committed. You're committed to the town, the people, and when you're a liaison to departments, they may call you. So again, I can't put the number of hours we put into this job, but it's a lot more than a Monday night meeting, I can tell you that.
Okay. Robert?
Well, if I was elected, I would tell you this, that I will come in here and I will fix what's broken. I will put my time into it, and I give you my promise, because I deliver with solutions, ladies and gentlemen. If I'm in the office, just like getting us back on TV, I was an alternate, appointed on the planning board. I wasn't even a planning board member. And I got a lot done to change that board. So, that's all I have to say.
Robert?
That is the one thing I looked into in considering running for select board, because I needed to know. I've, on the planning board, worked with a few members on the select board. I've seen the commitment it takes to time. I'm willing, again, I'm self-employed as well, so I'm willing to absolutely commit to the Monday morning meetings with the department heads, the Monday evening meetings, and of course, when you are on the select board, as I've seen the lights on here at different hours in the emergency meetings I've seen posted, I understand that it is a great commitment of time, and I'm willing to absolutely do that.
Okay. Next question. Does Kingston need a town administrator or a town manager? If so, which one and why? Peter?
I believe Kingston needs not a town manager. A town manager, I believe, if you look at the RSAs, a town manager would take a lot of the control, I don't want to say control, that's not a correct word, but the ability for the department heads to have direct contact, possibly with their budgets and the select people. We do move budgets around quite a bit through the department heads on required circumstances. I believe that a manager in itself would not be what this town needs at this time.
Robert?
Definitely not, either one position. We did just fine, we've been doing just fine. We have super talented people working for this town. With proper leadership, we should be able to handle ourselves just fine.
Robert?
I watched the debate at the deliberative session about this, and I gotta say, I'm not in favor of either. I don't want another boss on top of the bosses we already have. If at some point in time, the chief of police, fire department, highway department comes to me and says, we need someone to go to, I might listen, but I don't think that they all need bosses. I think they're all really good bosses on their own. I think that would be more of our job, and I get it, it's a commitment to time, but I don't see town manager or town administrator either position, no.
Ellen?
I think what we discovered at deliberative session is we don't know yet. There was some discussion about an administrator, then there were some really good points brought up about a town manager, there were a lot of points brought up as to why some people thought it would be best for the town. We didn't come up with a lot of reasons as to why it might be best for the residents. So I think that based on the amount of discussion at the deliberative session, that it's obviously something that needs to be looked into to see what's needed, whether anything's needed, whether a town manager is the right one. As I say, there was a lot of good points brought up about a town manager not being at the whim of the next political group. But I think because of all the discussion, we don't know the answer to that yet, and we really need a lot more information and a lot more input to come up with a legitimate answer to that question.
Okay. Next question. Please explain your views on town growth. Robert?
That I've been preaching since 2012. I watched my parents move out. They had to move to Ecuador in 2010 because they couldn't afford the taxes every month here. People now especially paying $1,500, some of them paying $2,000 a month for property taxes, just a month, just to live in town. All they do is pick up our trash. Where do you get off charging these kind of taxes? The reason why you're charging taxes is because there's no growth in town. You don't know how to grow your own town. The leadership here, I'm not putting them down. They mean well. They've done a lot of work. They spend a lot of time, but they just don't know what they're doing. It's really not a hard issue to tackle, drop in taxes. It's really not. I know, Peter, everybody says, oh, they have no idea how to lower taxes. I've been giving the town ideas to lower taxes for years. Everybody ignores me. But they work. My subdivision is a perfect example. 12 houses in there generating $160,000 for 12 houses. All you do is pick up the trash. That's how you lower taxes in town. You have growth. You stop building houses. You put buildings in that aren't storage units so that you get tax dollars. How about a doctor's office? How about, like I said, that charging station for cars, with a Panera, with people who buy those kind of cars? It's very simple to fix the problem here, and the leadership just can't figure it out. They've had decades to do it, and they can't do it. And they're taxing everybody out of town.
Robert?
I think I've spoken about this already. Growth is going to come. It's inevitable. I think, again, it's the reason I'm sitting up here looking for your vote, is I think it needs to be managed. We need to plan it. We need to figure out a way to get it to come into town. Our costs are going to increase from 2.5%. That is the metric. You can grow the rate or you can grow the revenue. How do you do that? Residential is a good idea. Commercial, we have a spot for it. But how do you do that not to end up, again, not to be the bad horse, but like Epping? I don't want to end up like that. We have enough land in town that we can manage our growth. We can manage our costs. We can manage all of it. You just have to keep an eye on it and plan for it. It's coming. How do you plan for it? Building workforce housing, not a fan. Putting 100 apartment units, not a fan. I like residential. It's a good idea. I think that if we can manage that and put some commercial in, then I think we can make it all work.
Alan?
I think that Kingston's going to have to pay attention to a lot of what's happening up at the state level. There's changes being proposed for limiting lot sizes and encouraging development, and I think we have to be proactive enough to know how it may impact the town and whether that impact is going to add to our tax base or cause a problem that we have to also then have to learn how to develop commercial development to go along with the residential changes that may be occurring. I don't know how we do that. I don't know if we need to have, there used to be, I forget the name, but there used to be like a business development committee in town that used to help Lynn, I think, was on it, who used to try to get other businesses to be interested in the town. And I don't know if that's actually what we need to do. I'm not sure that just the selectmen can do it. I'm not sure that the planning board alone with zoning can do it, or whether or not we need to actually have people, Brentwood's doing something like that, that's going to try to encourage businesses to come here and what we can offer them.
Peter?
Growth. I have to disagree with Bobby. I'm in commercial, I'm in residential construction myself. Just finished a 115-unit subdivision. I believe the business avenue has to be investigated a little bit more here in Kingston. It's been a little rough over the years getting commercial development in. Commercial taxes are much higher than residential taxes. When you put in these subdivisions in building developments of residential houses, you run into more calls for the fire department, more calls for the ambulance, more calls for the police department, more curb cuts for the highway department, more cost for trash removal. Cost. Residential houses bring in a lot of cost to the town of Kingston. Yeah, they may be $10,000, $12,000 on a house, but your commercial properties are gonna bring in your tax revenue with a less cost to burden the town of all the other requirements that a residence does require in the town of Kingston. And another thing we need to look at as well would be the school budget. That's another whole issue for another day, but I just don't believe that overburdening our town with residential neighborhoods is gonna drop your taxes with the additional costs that come with the cost of a new home. Thanks.
Okay. I'm going to take the liberty of combining two questions into one because they're both related, and I think most towns seem to have this problem. The question is, do you have any ideas for increasing town volunteerism and ideas for recognition of these town volunteers? Increasing volunteerism and recognizing them. Robert.
By nature, people need to belong to something. I think if you're looking to encourage volunteerism, you have to give them a cause to care about. Everybody walks in different shoes, so I mean, finding ways to keep people invested in volunteering, you gotta find something people care about. People care about kids, people care about schools, people care about elderly. I would start there and start programs there and conversations there. I was recently looking at a Facebook post of a guy who did 140 houses for the elderly with the local snow removal. Get people to care about things and you can get them to volunteer. The trick is to find the things to get them to care about. And I think starting with the elderly kids in schools might be a good idea.
Ellen?
I think I already addressed this a little bit in that I would like to work with the library as a community building that has a lot of people come in who are in a good mood. Not everybody who comes to the town hall is happy. But to actually invite people. I think people like to be invited. I think people like to feel that they might be wanted. I think sometimes it's intimidating to volunteer for a committee. You might think you don't have anything to offer, or you're just not 100% sure you'll be welcome, and I think that's important to people. I think people like to feel that way. I think that it might be a good idea to have the selectmen recognize a committee, pick one a month, have them come in, introduce them to the town, let them know the kind of work that they do, and maybe there's a couple more spots that people could fill. And I think if you made it feel more community and welcoming, you might actually start to get some more people to feel like they could step forward and help out a little bit.
Peter?
Networking. Networking is what I would have to say. I think I would be amazed, and I'm embarrassed to tell you how many committees, boards that we have in this town, and how many volunteers that come in and work on these boards and committees. We have a lot of volunteers. It's not just somebody that goes out and picks up trash on the plains. They run our committees, and I'm thankful to every one of them, and I think they do an unbelievable job. We do a little volunteer appreciation party at the end of the year, and that is not even the tip of the iceberg what these people do for us. So anybody out there in TV land listening, we do thank you for all the work you put into this town. And again, just networking, communication with other people that you know, that we do need other people on these committees. Is we're the only ones here tonight being opposed for this position as a select board. We have many committees that are not filled, and again, I just can't thank the volunteers enough in this town that do what they do for the town of Kingston.
Robert?
I think people don't volunteer because they don't have the time. And the reason why they don't have the time is because they have to work so hard to pay their taxes. And, you know, I had an idea for the stairs, the front stairs. I mean, I probably would have had that done if I was a selectman last year in a month, maybe a month and a half. You know, you can call up masons. I live across the street from one, and here's an example. First of all, it took you a whole year to figure out how to fix the stairs. And then when you start, it's in December, in the middle of winter. I mean, the stupidity here is just amazing to me. So, to get back to my masons, you could call 5, 6 masons, I'm sure, in town. And each one could do a couple steps, would volunteer their time. And all you have to do is put a plaque up on the wall and show some appreciation to people in town. That's why you're not getting volunteers. Because there's no appreciation for the people, the citizens of this town. So they don't vote, they really don't care. They just pay their taxes, they get up every day, and they go to work. That's why you're not getting any volunteers.
Okay. Next question. The current select board created initiatives for 2024 to include increasing volunteerism, launching a new website, and fixing the front stairs. What is your top initiative for 2025? Ellen?
As I mentioned in my opening statement, I really would like to work out a way that we could have more interaction with people and the Board of Selectmen and people who can't come to a meeting. I really think that we could develop a message board, we could get people to make comments, and we could start to have more interaction with the residents and the voters of the town. I think it's very important. I think we have a lot of people who feel disenfranchised because they can't interact with the selectmen as often as they'd like to. And I've talked to a couple people, and I think that we could legitimately do this. Again, one of the other things, as I've mentioned, is trying to encourage more people. As Peter said, we have like at least 7 positions that on the ballot that nobody's even signed up for. I think there are 10 positions where, okay, you're in, because it's just one person who signed up for each of the positions. We need to try different ways to encourage people to interact with their local government.
Peter?
If I'm elected here in 2025, I would like to spend, I think, a little bit more of my time with the solid waste recycling. I did attend one of the meetings. We had a great, I thought, brainstorming session that I actually thoroughly enjoyed. It was not what I expected, to be honest with you, the meeting. I like to work on the Kingston days. That's kind of fell by the wayside. We had some technical difficulties with that. I think that does bring the community together as a whole. And another thing I'd like to look into a little bit more is we recently had hired a different assessing company, and we did locate, by default, a number of properties in this town that were under a nonprofit status, and we were able to find over $250,000 in additional tax revenue to the town of Kingston by that assessing company. So I think we need to look into that a little bit more and work with some of the people that are still out there that having issues with this nonprofit status.
Robert?
Could you repeat that question?
Yeah. The bottom line was, what would be your top initiative for next year?
Okay. Well, I'm not gonna say that I wouldn't, but I'm gonna hammer getting our taxes down. And I'm not gonna tell you I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna bring clean water to those people with poison wells. I'm not telling you I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it if I'm a selectman. There's things you have to do that you have to get those projects. You have to go up to Concord. You have to meet with State House people. You have to do a lot of work to do all that stuff. It's not just call up a couple people. So I'm not gonna tell you that I'm not gonna lower taxes. You're damn right I'm gonna lower taxes in this town. That's my goal for 2025. To fix those stairs, my goodness, that's a joke. We spent over $100-something thousand for that. It's not a hard process, ladies and gentlemen. You take those stairs apart, you mark them, you number them, you put them aside, you dig a hole 42 inches deep. You put a foundation in. It's not hard. It's not $100,000. It's a joke, the way the town is run right now. And I have to live here too. My family lives here. We're all getting taxed out of town. My friends that live on my street are moving out because they can't afford the taxes. Now, maybe you can all afford taxes, but some people can't. I can afford my taxes. Some people can't. I have clean water. Some people don't. And I've never seen a town. I grew up all over the place. I grew up in Lawrence, for Christ's sakes. They'll even shoot you. But in this town, I've never seen a community not care about each other as much as this town. And it's appalling to me. You have people with poison wells that have children bathing in cancerous water, and nobody cares. I care. I care about the people in this town. That's why I'm running for selectman.
Robert?
I think the biggest initiative for me would be to, again, inform the voters of what's coming. Too many times I've seen things on the school board, on the select board, at the State House that people are not aware of happening. I think if we can find a way to inform them of what is coming, it would create a lot more involvement. Towns are killed by 1,000 cuts. They vote enough stuff through at the State House that we're going to have a problem in Kingston. We can fight back with 1,000 votes, informing the people of what is coming so they can vote and they can voice their opinion. I think we can have a community that will grow and prosper. So I think just informing the voters of what's coming.
Okay. Next question. Would you support a municipal water system in town? Yes or no? Peter?
I think it's a little too early to make that comment on that. I think we have a long road ahead of us, and we have a lot of we got a lot of homework to do on that right now before I can answer that.
Robert?
I think that is the most stupid idea that I've heard in my 20 years in this town.
Robert?
Absolutely not. Again, with the municipal water system comes municipal sewer system. With municipal sewer system comes growth that I don't want here. And I would, again, inform the voters of what it will bring. So no, absolutely not.
Ellen?
I agree with Peter that there's a lot more discussion. I don't think it's a yes or no answer. Part of what you'd have to look at is if a municipal water system or municipal sewer system was what was required to bring commercial business into the town. That's one of the reasons why we have trouble bringing commercial industry into town, is because we don't have some of the things that they're looking for. So it might be something to look at if the financial benefit was worthwhile, but I think that there's a lot more information that would have to be gathered and a lot more reason to do it to be able to say yes to that.
Peter? Oh, I started with you. There you go. Next question. Do you support a policy that prohibits the use of cell phones by selectmen during their meetings? Explain your reasoning. We did? Wasn't just like it, all right. Yep, all right. Okay. Being that you are running for a position with firing authority, have you ever stated that you would fire a town employee who had taken enforcement action against you? Do you think those types of statements could be financial or legal liability to the town if elected? I'm not sure I understand that question. Anyone care to answer it? No. Robert?
If someone needs to be fired in town, not because they said something bad about me, then they need to be fired. This isn't a personal, this isn't our personal town. The people that are up here, the selectmen, the people that are running this town for you people, they're representing you. It's not their personal opinion that's supposed to be running this town, and that's the problem with what's been going on. It's people's personal, they're the kings and queens of this town. And they're running it like their own personal town. And this is the reason why this town is in such disarray. Now, people, if you're going to talk bad about somebody, you don't just fire them. If there's a reason they're talking bad about you, then you have to face the facts. But would I fire anybody because they said something bad about me? Are you kidding me? I played pro hockey. I was a goalie. And I was either the hero or the zero. So you gotta have thick skin.
Okay. Robert?
No, firing someone that for enforcement against you, no, absolutely not.
Okay. Alan?
I've never threatened to fire somebody. You can't threaten to fire somebody. You don't have the authority to fire somebody. You are a member of a board of 5 people, so an individual doesn't have any authority to threaten it or to do it. So people need to, who's ever in this position needs to understand that. And certainly you couldn't subject the town to any sort of lawsuit that you could be wandering around threatening to fire people and then be in a position to have some authority over them. So no to all of that.
Peter?
So moved.
Next question. 2 of the candidates have relatives that are employed or elected by the town. Do you believe it's appropriate to recuse yourself from discussions relative to your family member? Oh, I did it? Oh, all right. Next question. What is the most significant problem facing Kingston? Robert?
School system. Funding, structure, school system.
No? Ellen?
Sorry, my mic wasn't working for a second. Unfortunately, I think most people agree that the biggest problem is, everyone's going to say, is taxes, because it will always be taxes. The problem is that, again, unfortunately, and not trying to blame anyone in particular, but the school system takes up a significant portion of our taxes. I think the town's only like 25%. So while people want the selectmen to somehow do a lot with taxes, there's only so much we can do. And there's only so much we can do based on what people vote on. But it is unfortunately the school that is the bulk of that particular problem.
Peter?
I hate to say so moved again, but she hit it right on the head. If you look at the budget items and these department heads that have worked very diligently on their budgets, our cost this year on taxes went up so minuscule for what we're running here for a town. I definitely think the school system is a topic for discussion. I was actually an advocate that possibly in this next 2025, that we should have a liaison from the town select board on to the budget committee for the school, which we do not have.
Robert?
Well, we can fix our tax problem, we can fix the school problem, the major problem we have in this town. It's one word, ladies and gentlemen, it's leadership. That's your problem. It's been the same people for 10, 20, 30 years, some of them. It's called insanity. You do the same thing over and over again and you expect a different outcome. It's not going to change. You need to change your leadership. This is the reason why this town is in such disarray. I hate to tell you. And sometimes the truth hurts, ladies and gentlemen. You need a true leader that's going to take this town to another level, not join the good old boy club.
And guess what? We're out of questions.
What a scene.
That's the last question I have. I hope you guys had a good time tonight. Found it informative, and now we're going to have a closing statement. Robert?
Thank you again for all your time. Again, I am here because I care about Kingston a lot. I love this town. I want to be involved in its growth. Working with all the people that I have, I've seen departments that are run by wonderful people. I look forward to working with everybody moving forward, and I would like to have your vote for Select Board. Thank you.
Ellen?
There are currently 4 people running for 2 positions for the Board of Selectmen. I'm not running against anyone. I'm just running on my own merits and experience of serving the town since 1992. During that time, I also attended multiple budget, planning, and local official seminars to educate myself on municipal laws and regulations. There are obviously many issues facing the town: taxes, personnel issues, rising costs, housing concerns. Some things the selectmen can address, some are determined by the voters. I'm not going to promise you that I can eliminate all problems in town. That would not be realistic. But I can promise you that I will be fiscally responsible when it comes to your tax money. I will be legally accountable to actions taken, and I will be respectful to the rights of the voters and residents of Kingston. Again, I ask for your vote as selectmen. And I also want to thank Barry for moderating tonight. I appreciate it. For Adam for televising, and for Tammy and Tom for putting tonight's event together. Thank you.
Peter?
I'd like to also echo to thank all the people that are involved with tonight. Tammy, yourself for helping us out with the moderator. It baffles me that we have 27 people in the audience tonight out of a town of almost 8,000. And I want to really extend my appreciation that you all are here. I'm hoping that we have people in TV land at home watching this tonight to put in an educated thought or a vote when it comes here in March for the town. Again, I thoroughly enjoyed working as a board member, and I would appreciate your vote to continue support for the town of Kingston. Thank you.
Robert?
Well, I don't begrudge anyone doing well, but they have to pay their fair share taxes. Because I pulled the selectmen's tax cards when Mr. Koppelman got 75% off his property taxes, I found the selectmen and the tax collector what I call stealing from the town. You see, when they sold their house in 2016 on Exeter Road, they built a 40 by 60 barn that they parked their RV in while they were building their new home. They parked their RV in there because Peter installed heat and running hot water, put a bathroom and a shower in it also. Apparently an illegal dry well, because I called the state and there's no permit for that dry well. How do I know this? I helped them build it. It's at least a $400,000 structure that Tammy assesses herself for $56,000. That saves $7,000 per year since 2017. They also have 42 acres on Greenwood Pond. According to Tammy, she has 8 acres out of current use. It's probably 10, but only taxes herself 5, saving money on property taxes too. She took an oath as an officer to this town. She should, done? There you go.
That concludes our candidates' night. You want to make one? I would love to, yeah. Do it.
"90 seconds. So when I came to town, I started in the recreation committee, then I quickly joined the budget committee of town. And I was told by many members of the budget committee that the school is the devil and the school is the problem. And if you 4 people, or 3 people, want to say that the school is the biggest problem in the town, I don't know what you're talking about. That wasn't the question as a cop-out, and I've heard it for years. The question was, what's the biggest problem with the town? We know that the school budget has to come down. I think you should focus on what the town needs. Stop using the school as like the cop-out answer.
Wait a minute, hold on. Wait a second, sir. Would you go back to the mic? As long as you wanted to make a closing statement, out of all these questions, I had one concerning the school district.
Oh, sure, go ahead.
The question was, what is the largest future cost facing the school system of Kingston?
Fremont leaving the school district and the reduce the head counts, which is gonna have to force us to make reductions of both probably staff and possibly buildings. You know, I'm speaking for myself, not the board. I think everything is gonna have to be on the table, and there's gonna be a lot of hard decisions that are gonna have to be made with the 26-27 school year.
Okay. Thank you. That concludes our candidates' night. Hope you had a good time, and thanks for coming.